All right. Let's move on to our number 9 and 8 teams. This is gonna be very interesting because I think that it's going
Yep.
to upset a lot of people. Where I think Pete is going with it. I can already hear the smirk. I can already hear the giggles and the smirk.
I can't go first. I can't go first. I can't do
You
that.
got to go first. This is you.
No, no, I can't do it. No, somebody go first. Somebody go
I'll
first.
go first. I'll go
All right,
first.
go ahead,
I
Brad.
got
Go ahead.
I got the Lakers ninth.
Ooh.
I have the Lakers at
Yeah,
9 too.
Can I
they're a
say?
bad
Too.
team,
Can I also
bro.
say have them 9 as well?
Okay. That was not as controversial as I thought it was going to be. I was like, I honestly think they're definitely the 9 seed. I looking at
Yeah,
these other teams, I if you're a rational individual who watches back, I am the biggest LeBron stan of all time. I have a wall of LeBron memorabilia and merchandise in my room. Okay, literally. That being said, him and Anthony Davis alone are just. I cannot justify putting that team ahead of these other 8 squads. It just is not okay to my brain. I can't do it.
All right, Brad. Why don't
Somebody has to have better rationale than that, but it's
um,
Austin. Look at that
uh,
lineup, bro.
it's so
Damian
bad.
Jones and Austin Reeves. Who?
So
Oh, Austin
my
Reeves is
rationale
crazy.
is besides the roster stinking, like their spacing got worse somehow. I don't know how their spacing got
Yeah.
worse from last year, but like Dennis Schroeder can't shoot. Lonnie Walker hasn't been a good shooter. They're hoping he becomes a good shooter.
Mhm.
Troy Brown
Can't
Jr.,
shoot.
not a floor spacer. Juan Toscano, not a floor spacer. Like, what is this, man? What are we doing here? Uh,
Yeah.
their best shooter
Yeah,
on the
this is like
roster
a
right now
straight
is Pat
85
Beverly.
team. Yeah. It's
Um,
LeBron, but yeah, Pat Bev
yeah,
is probably their best just actual like 3
like
specific
spot
shooter
up
for
spread.
sure.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Not trading Russ hurts them a lot. I know they're going to try and make it work. There's reports that they want to bring him off the bench, which will probably end up happening. They're just setting up for that. But even then, his
Who
effort on defense
starts?
isn't good. They're saying Russ is a starter right now, but they're gonna bench him. They're gonna have to. There's no way. Like he just doesn't fit with LeBron and AD. And
Yeah.
if you're going to start, they have to start Thomas Bryant. You cannot start Russ, AD, Bron, and Damian Jones, bro. It's going to sound
Damian
like Hiroshima
Jones.
in those arenas. It's going to sound disgusting in those arenas. You cannot do that, man. I want to hear that.
There is no chance. I actually had a really hard time with the Lakers too because I think if you're being rational and you're just looking at the roster they have right now, I was literally quibbling with putting them. I use quibbling again. I would have put them. I would have put them at 10. I started to question: do I
Yeah.
actually think that Portland is better? I honestly think they might be. They might be. Sacramento might be better too, which is just borderline rude. Nowadays, Sacramento, they've been awful for 25 years. That being said, I had to keep going back and forth with like my speculative, like with Utah. I put them at 15 because I truly think they're going to make some moves happen. I don't see a universe in which the Lakers don't do something else. They cannot go into the opening day games with that roster of centers on their team. They just cannot do it. There's
Yeah.
no way the Lakers fans will give them any slack for running out Wenyen, Gabriel, Thomas Bryant, and Damian Jones. I just don't see it. So
Yeah.
I put them at 9 just because I still don't see a clear path for them to go and get somebody better.
Mhm.
But I mean, when it comes down to it, this is a team that has to be okay in the city they're in. They can't get absolutely demolished by the Clippers in LA. They just can't let that happen. So I still see something happening where maybe it is that Miles Turner, Buddy Hield thing. I don't know. But I find it really hard to believe that they're going to run this roster into the season. I just don't think it's going to
Yeah.
happen.
I mean, I think the frustrating part about it is that again, the Lakers are wasting another year of LeBron James's uh playing career with basically a very mediocre roster. Again, I had Anthony Davis as my MVP last year, kind of my prediction MVP. After the bubble title, it felt like they had the confidence. It felt like they were finally on the track to like ascend. And then Anthony Davis gets hurt again. And we looked at Anthony Davis playing history. I don't think he's played a full 70 games since he was a Pelican. And that to me is a concern. And so as I looked at this roster, as I continue to monitor like what is going to go on, it does leave a little bit it does leave us wondering really about guys like Damian Jones, guys like Thomas Bryant. They drafted Max Christie, who again is probably going to be a G League guy. Scottie Pippen Jr., probably a G League guy, if not two-way. And then you have a guy like Kendrick Nunn. Again, he's been injured what seems like for almost 2 years now. That something serious must be happening to him where he can't play for what seems like almost 2 to 3 years now since we last seen him in a Miami Heat uniform. And so there's a concern there for me, for him, about what can he really bring? Because I know a lot of the crazy Laker fans that continue to say and continue to post news like, oh, Russell, he's getting traded. There's rumors and things like that, and just posting random stuff just so they can get hyped, they can get excited for basically another average season. And like you guys said, Russell Westbrook, I love the guy, but he is hard to play with. And that's the frustrating part, I would say, for the Lakers at the current moment. When it's hard to play with a guy like Russell Westbrook, and Brad is absolutely right with the spacing. Where are you getting it from? LeBron likes a certain style of play. None of the players, except maybe Anthony Davis, fit that style of play. There may be a couple more, maybe Patrick Beverley.
Yeah.
But it's not going to look pretty. And as much as I would love to say, a LeBron James led team can get them at least top 4, it's hard to say that when you have a roster that looks like this.
Yeah, man, it's ugly. I mean, there's clearly a universe in which this team gets better just through making any moves, but it's almost too speculative. That was really what it boiled down to for me. It was like you have to really jump some mental hurdles to see this team get better than even teams that are kind of close to them, like New Orleans, for example. Like New Orleans, I'll just spoil it now. They're my number 8 team. Okay. I think they're so much better than the Lakers are. Like they have so much more depth. Even guys on the bench, like low minute guys for the Pelicans could get serious minutes for the Lakers. So that's something, man. They have a lot of work to do. If I'm a Lakers fan, this is like the worst season coming into it that I could even imagine. I'm sure they finally understand what it feels like to be a Knicks fan right now. The problem is they still have LeBron James, so I can't rule them out by any, circumstance. Like he's still on the team. But the one thing, and this is why the speculative nature of this, like you can't go the reverse. I don't believe there's any time this season that they can trade LeBron based on when he signed his extension, right? I think that was one of the things that happened where he can't even get traded at the January deadline now. So if that was available, I would question putting this team even lower because I would consider like they would move him, but that's not going to happen. I think they would if it was available. If it was available, I think he could get moved. But I think he made that contract decision so he could get the full choice on his own when it came down to it. So I don't know, man. This is the hardest team to talk about just because they do have LeBron and Anthony Davis, arguably 2 top 13 players in the league somewhere in there at this point. But God, they're bad. They're so bad. Like all their signings were just so awful. Like Lonnie Walker is the fact that they're paying him as much money as they did is just mind-bogglingly stupid. Like he does not fit this team at all. I keep comparing guys to Russ. He's not that far off. Like just terrible shot selection,
is everybody
shooting
Russ
ugly threes. Dudes, these guards who just constant heat check guys who can't shoot threes and take deep threes all the time, they might as well be like the new incarnation of Russ. So
De'Aaron Fox is definitely Russ 2.0, like for sure.
To me,
Colin Sexton not so much. De'Aaron Fox, yeah,
I agree. Pat, I mean, the only thing they did well this offseason was getting Pat Bev. I love that signing. I think he fits everything they need mentality-wise and just like the dog that he is on the court. Like they need that kind of guy. That's why like Kendrick Nunn, whatever you think about him, at least he would do something for this team with like his skill set. It's just there's literally no indication when he's even going to be close to playing at this point. So you can't even rule that in. Yeah, this team is so suspect, man. They have so many issues going into this season.
I would say that they do have one hope, and that hope would be Darvin Ham. Looking at their roster, if he can actually construct, they're going to be horrific on offense with spacing. but they have a bunch of young guys. They can get up and down the floor. Damian Jones is an actual rim threat, unlike DeAndre Jordan. Um, lot of lob plays with him and AD. So I think their identity could be on the defensive end, and they could end up being, if they, get really lucky and everything goes right, a top 10 defense. And then from there, LeBron could pick you apart, and they could find themselves in like the 7 seed if their defense is nice. But other than that, no. Cole Swider might play for them because of how bad their space
Yeah,
is.
that's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. Cole Swider is going to get minutes for this team. He will get minutes.
Mm-hmm. All right, Brad. Who's your 8 team? Who's number 8? Who's Ocho?
This might shock some people, but number 8 is the Memphis Grizzlies.
Memphis, the major drop off.
I was going to be controversial.
Yeah,
you have outdone me.
I looked at their roster and I really don't like it, to be honest. I think that mostly because they don't have Jaren Jackson for a huge part of the start of the season. If they had him, I'd probably have them higher, but losing him hurts. He's a defensive player of the year candidate. He led the league in total blocks last year. That's a big piece. He spaces the floor for them, can guard on the perimeter. That's bad, man. So without him, and they lost Kyle Anderson, who would play make for them off the bench, who was a good wing defender. They lost DeAnthony Melton, a good perimeter defender who can also space the floor. And they got back was a rookie, Jake LaRavia. Don't know what to expect from him. They added Danny Green, but I do like him. I think he'll space the floor, but I don't think he can replicate what Melton and losing Jackson, all that. Yeah. And then they added Danny Green, but he's hurt. He's out for most of the year. He's saying he might come back this year, but he's out for most of the year. Other than that, they have the same exact roster pretty much. So looking at the rest of the West, I couldn't put them up above any of these teams. They don't have the talent. John Morant is amazing, but I mean, Zion is better. I think with the Pelicans getting him back, they can't even touch the Pelicans.
Gosh, this is tough. Bernie, I don't even know. We even ready to talk about Memphis? Are they coming up soon for you, or are you like holding on to them for a while?
I think they're somewhere.
I have them kind of high.
I have them a little bit higher.
Yeah,
not too crazy high, but a little bit higher.
Yeah,
I have another team that's lower than them.
Who's your 8, Bernie? Because I already said I have New Orleans at 8.
I have New Orleans as well. I think that, again, not saying that this team is necessarily going to be bad. It's just, I think the West is just way too stacked with all the players that are in the league right now. I think that this team, though, is a better team-oriented team, I would say. I think with the way that you have Brandon Ingram, you have CJ McCollum, who just signed that extension today, I believe. You have Herb Jones, who I really like. Jackson Hayes, I need to see just a little bit more growth from him as a player. Jonas Valanciunas might be someone that is good now, but might need replacing a little bit later. And then, of course, you have Zion.
Underrating him. He's good.
And then you have Zion Williamson. I need him to come out the gate like he did 2 years ago, because I think that if he can do that, then this Pelicans team can be top 6 for me. But it all depends on Zion Williamson, how he gets back into the league. He needs to be at the weight and the body fat percentage that they need him to be, so he can be effective and stay on the court longer. I think that was the problem with the way that he was playing when he was a little bit overweight. Not saying that he was fat, but just, when you have that much body weight on you, you're always landing on your knees. It's going to hurt. I mean, Brad did a good job, man, of justifying the Pelicans higher just with the Memphis Grizzlies take. So I got to give you credit for that, Brad, because I mean, thinking about it a little bit more now, it's just, I think the Pelicans, they have a roster. They have a
lot of good players.
Yeah.
They have a lot of good players. I actually had a really hard time with this. Am I allowed to change at the last minute here? Because I have a team at 7 that is a little be controversial to other people, but I actually think that, God, the more I look at it, I think the Pelicans are better than Dallas. I really do. Mm-hmm. Dallas is my 8th team. I'm changing. I think Dallas is number 8. Hey. I think there's way too much on Luka on that team scoring wise. Like, I like Christian Wood a lot. I like that signing. We've talked about it. Mm-hmm. I just think that people are underrating how much of a glue guy Brunson was to this team in terms of getting the other guys involved and like being that secondary guy behind Luka. I really think he was important to what they did last season. So I don't think Dallas got better than they did last year. And they're another team where you have to think, like, if anything happens to Luka, if he gets an ankle sprain, he's out for a month. I mean, they don't have a Brunson to carry them through those games. They're going to be terrible anytime Luka misses a minute with the squad. I don't really like what they did as far as putting other scoring options around Luka for them. And I know people would disagree and put the pushback of Christian Wood as far as like he could give you 25 a game. I just don't think Luka is necessarily the type of guard that's going to get him 25 a game, first of all. And secondly, like if Luka's not there, it's not like they have a great replacement to then slide in there and get Christian Wood involved any more than he was with Luka. So I don't know, man. I also think people, and Brad, I know you like Jason Kidd as a coach. I'm not going to take anything away from what he did last season. I thought his tenure with Milwaukee was so bad that I need to see it again. I need to see him do it for another season. Have a really good coaching staff, put together another season and outperform expectations. I'm going to go with it. I think Dallas is my 8th team. I think there is some fallback for this team based on their success of last year.
That's fair. My pushback would be that they are getting Tim Hardaway Jr. back.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. I'm a Knicks fan. I saw Tim Hardaway Jr. play a lot, and he would have helped last season for sure to have him. He's just not. I don't know. I think people overrate Tim Hardaway Jr.
He doesn't move the needle.
He's fine.
Agree.
Yeah. So inefficient as a scorer too. I know that his stats in the last couple of years would indicate otherwise, but God,
Luka effect. Yeah. That's the Luka effect.
It's the Luka effect. Open shots.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see here. So who's our number 9 team? We had the Lakers, right? Lakers number 9.
That was a consensus number 9. Yes. So number 8, we all have different teams.
Yeah. I mean, I went Pelicans at the beginning.
I think we can agree that it's not the Pelicans. I think we all kind of moved them up a little bit.
Yeah.
After that discussion.
All right. I'll give you my 7th team. I think this one might shock Pete. Pete might go into a cardiac arrest if I say what I say.
What are you going to say, Bernie? It's going to be Denver. I'm betting.
Number 7, the Denver
No
Nuggets.
way. Not the
You're
Nuggets. Oh my
such
God.
such
No
a
way.
bad take, Bernie.
And my rationale for this is it's Jokic and the Brady Bunch. And the Brady Bunch is a bunch of guys that, again, I need to see Jamal Murray back and healthy. I need to see Michael Porter Jr. put together a better season. Because if he's not there, I don't know what this team will be if it's just Jokic and the rest of these guys. I know Bones Highland is a good player. I respect him. Ish Smith, great backup guard. But other than that, like I don't really like this roster as much as other people do. I think that this team, I understand that they have a bunch of good players, but I need to see Jamal Murray back and healthy before I can move him anywhere up on my list. Number 7 is where I think they should stay. Because again, I don't want to see Jokic go into the playoffs one more time and lose because his 2 guys cannot stay healthy. It's been like that for so long, and I just think that if you're a Denver fan, you're annoyed. You're annoyed that your two guys. I think Jamal Murray will be okay, but for the amount of money that you paid Porter Jr., he's got to step up and he's got to find a way to get healthy, man. I know that's not in his control at times, but I think for this team to really be a playoff contender, a top 4, top 3 team, they got to do a lot better. And I think this year they're gonna struggle a bit because I think it's gonna take Jamal Murray a little bit of time to get back into it. And I think that Michael Porter Jr. I think that he's a 9.9 per game scorer. 10
Whoa! Oh my goodness!
10.
You're out of your mind.
I'm low on MPJ, and I wouldn't say that.
Telling me that Vlatko Kankar doesn't move the needle for you, Bernie?
Zeke Naji?
That name, Vlatko Kankar? Yeah, I firm disagreement on this one. Denver is definitely not the 7th worst team or 7th team in the West. This is where I have the Pelicans, and I think we've gone over the Pelicans enough. I think they're definitely one of the teams that has some of the highest upside coming into this year. Not Denver, New Orleans. Who's your 7, Brad?
Yeah, I agree that the Nuggets aren't anywhere near 7, but I have the Pelicans, or not Pelicans. I have the Mavericks as 7th.
Okay.
We just talked about them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with Christian Wood, coming or getting in there, he'll help out. I think Spencer Dinwiddie getting healthier will help them. He's not Luka, but he can, keep them afloat with him and THJ and Christian Wood. Getting JaVale McGee is a big help to their interior defense too, which they didn't have at all last year. So I have them 7th.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like for me, I'd have the Dallas Mavericks at 6. It's not like they're any better, but I just think that when you have your guard, it's kind of like your best player. And then we talked about Christian Wood kind of being added to the roster. I think it does bring to me the Dallas Mavericks a little bit higher, just because I think last year they were 4th, I think, from what I remember. And so,
yeah. Also, one thing with Kidd, he's really emphasized not playing Luka ball. Like that was the issue with Carlisle, whatever how you say his last name. Yeah, like P, I get what you mean. A lot is on Luka, but Kidd was emphasized. Kidd is the one that brought out Brunson. Like he is the one that
he unlocked everything that Brunson is now, for sure. I totally agree.
Yeah. So I think even if Luka goes down, Dinwiddie and Hardaway Jr. can keep them afloat. Their roster's not terrible. They have good bench players. Kleber will now be coming off the bench for Wood, hopefully, and he's a good player. Finney Smith. Bertans, he can shoot at least. At least Kidd knows how to use someone like Bertans. He at least knows how to use him. Dwight Powell will now come off the bench.
Thank
God. I like that team.
Thank God. Dwight Powell coming off the bench. Yeah, JaVale McGee. I think JaVale McGee, I hope that he kind of goes up this roster. On this website for Real GM, they have him as the 4th guy. I think he could go up a little bit. Maybe move Kleber or Powell over to the power forward position.
ESPN has JaVale McGee as the starting center for this team, by the way. Just
there
so
we
you
go.
know that.
I guess with Christian Wood as the power forward. Okay.
Yeah. No, well, they actually this is wrong too, because it has Christian Wood coming off the bench as their 6th man. It has Dorian Finney-Smith starting at the 4, which makes sense. Their best lineup they can do is
for defense.
Finney-Smith is 4, and then ideally Christian Wood is the 5, probably. I mean, he's not really a defensive center in any way, shape, or form, but they could swap him out with JaVale and have more defense. I don't know, man. I just really hate this team's guard depth behind Luka. Like Luka makes up a lot of it. He's not
that bad. Dinwiddie shined in the playoffs, honestly, last year. They don't win that game 7 without him.
I think Dinwiddie's
I'm not even saying Dinwiddie's bad. I think Dinwiddie is solid. I just think if he's literally like your starting 2 guard or whatever he is, if he's their 1 or 2, whatever, if he's starting on your team and he's arguably your 3rd best player, I just don't see how that puts you in the top 6 of either conference.
I think you're underrating. I think he's good, man. I think Dinwiddie's good. Not saying that he's anything special, but he's a good player, man. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people.
Let me just put this in perspective for you, Bernie. This is how I'm looking at it. I don't think Spencer Dinwiddie is bad. I just think I think he's their 3rd best player. I think he's fine. I think if you compare other 3rd best players on competitive championship aspiration teams, he's probably the worst 3rd best player on any of those teams. Like, even just compare, I know this is a little unfair, we're not in the East, but think of like Milwaukee. I mean, that's Drew. You're comparing Drew Holiday to Spencer Dinwiddie. There's so much of a difference between those guys. So I know that's not a fair comparison. I'm just saying, if you're a team with championship aspirations, that's your 3rd guy. I don't think that's enough. He's good. I'm not saying he's bad.
I agree with that. I agree. I definitely agree with that. I don't think the Mavericks are real contenders, but the Bucks are, but I don't think the Mavericks are real contenders. So I agree with that. Not a good 3rd option.
Okay. So what's our
let's go back to the list. Yeah, let's iron out these spots.
Okay, so Pelicans 7, I think that's what we agreed on. So we'll put them there. But who's the 8th team?
That's tough because I put Dallas at 8. I don't know if you guys would agree with that.
I put Memphis there.
Oh wow!
I don't think we can do Memphis at 8. I think Bernie and I have them too high to put them at 8. Try and meet in the middle on that.
It's got to be the Denver Nuggets, right? 8.
Get out of here.
Definitely not.
Are you guys going Mavericks? Mavericks at 8.
I think if anything,
I guess I would put Dallas at 8 and New Orleans at 7, but I think if we're going based on consensus voting, I think it's really the other way around. I think Dallas is probably the 7 and New Orleans is the 8. But I might be wrong. I guess none of us had New Orleans at 8, though. No, yeah, I'm high on New Orleans. Spoiler, they're my 6.
Okay,